General Hospital spoilers for Monday, March 9th, reveal that Carly and Jason have it out. Maxie says too much. Charlotte's eavesdropping pays off, and more. Read on. Let soap opera news break it down for you. Carly and Valentine's night leads to trouble. Well, what do you know? After months of spending time in each other's orbit, Carly, Laura Wright, and Valentine, James Patrick Stewart, finally hit the sheets. The chemistry was undeniable, and the room was practically filled with smoke. But that heat is not going away anytime soon, especially once Jason Steve Burton shows up. After his intense conversation with Jocelyn, Eden McCoy, where she made some shocking revelations, Jason heads straight to Carly. According to spoilers, Carly and Jason are about to have it out. The real way. Now, we all know Carly and Jason are best friends. But when these two have something on their minds, neither one of them holds back. That means Carly is going to say exactly what she thinks, and Jason will do the same. Jason wastes no time reminding her who Valentine really is. He might bring up everything Valentine has done and the kind of danger that follows him everywhere he goes. Jason makes it clear that Carly needs to think about what she is getting herself into. But will she listen? Warnings, secrets, and eavesdropping. Elsewhere in Port Charles, Brennan, Chris McKenna, is on the move. He recently made a huge request to get intel on everything Cullum, Andrew Hawks, has been up to. Whether he gets that information remains to be seen, but one thing is certain. Brennan tracks down Joss because he has something important to tell her. He warns her that the danger around her is growing. But will Joss even care? Right now, she seems fully committed to the WSB agent lifestyle. Meanwhile, Maxie, Kirsten Storms, apparently says a little too much. Exactly what that means remains to be seen. Willow, Caitlin McMullen, also finds herself dealing with Sidwell, Carlo Rhoda, once again as he delivers some marching orders. And finally, GH spoilers for March 9th also tease that Charlotte's, Bluesy Burke, eavesdropping pays off. That's all for General Hospital spoilers for March 9th, 2026. Which storyline are you most excited to watch unfold? Share your thoughts in the comments, and don't miss the weekly spoilers for even more drama in Port Charles. Carly Spencer stood at the floor-to-ceiling window, watching the lights of Port Charles blink against the dark sky, a half-empty glass of red dangling from her fingers. Behind her, the rumpled sheets told a story she wasn't entirely sure she was ready to narrate out loud. Valentine Cassadine had left an hour ago, pressed shirt, smooth smile. One last look at her that she felt in her spine, and she still hadn't moved. She replayed it the way she always replayed things she couldn't undo. Frame by frame. Choice by choice. How did we get here? She already knew the answer. Months of proximity. Months of him showing up in the same rooms, saying the right things in that low, deliberate voice of his. Valentine wasn't like other men in Port Charles. He wasn't loud about his danger. He was quiet about it, refined. And somehow, that had been the most dangerous thing of all. Her phone buzzed on the counter. She didn't look at it. It buzzed again. She looked. Jason. He was at her door in 12 minutes. Carly had known Jason Morgan for most of her adult life. She knew the difference between his knocks, the polite one when things were fine, the steady one when he needed to talk, and the one he was using right now, which meant something had happened, and he wasn't leaving until they dealt with it. She opened the door. Jason stood in the hallway in a dark jacket, jaw tight, eyes doing that thing they did when he was working very hard to stay calm. He looked at her for exactly 1 second, taking in the wine, the loose hair, the unmistakable atmosphere of the room behind her, and she watched understanding move across his face like a weather system. "Come in," she said. He came in. He didn't sit down. I talked to Jocelyn tonight, he said. Carly set her glass on the counter. I know you did. She told me you were going to. She crossed her arms, not defensively, more like bracing. What did she say? Enough. He turned to face her fully. Carly, don't. I haven't said anything yet. You don't have to. I know that look. She met his eyes. Say it. Whatever you came here to say. Jason exhaled slowly. He wasn't a man who wasted words, which meant when he used them, they landed with weight. Valentine Cassadine, he said, like the name itself was a problem that needed examining. That's where we are. That's where I am, she corrected. You don't have to be anywhere. You're my best friend. That means I'm exactly where you are, whether you want me here or not. He moved a step closer, not to crowd her, just to be real with her, the way only Jason ever was. I know you're not naive. I know you know who he is. But knowing something in your head and actually sitting with what it means are two different things. Carly looked at the window. He's changed. The silence that followed was not unkind. It was just honest. People say that, Jason said carefully. Sometimes it's even true. But Valentine has done things, real things, Carly, not rumors, that don't just go away because he's been decent to you for a few months. I know his history. Do you know all of it? She didn't answer because the answer was probably no, and they both knew it. He pulled a gun on Anna, Jason said. He was involved in plot after plot that put people in this town in the ground. He has ties to the WSB, to the DVX, to people whose names I don't even want to say out loud in your apartment. He paused. The danger doesn't leave just because he walks away from it. It follows him. It always follows him. Carly turned back to look at him. There were tears she wasn't going to cry, not because she was holding them back, but because she was too tired and too honest with herself to pretend this was simple heartbreak. It wasn't. It was something messy, something she'd chosen with her eyes at least partially open. I know, she said quietly. I know all of that. Then why? She laughed, short and rough. Because I'm lonely, Jason. Because he's smart and he actually sees me, not who he needs me to be, not who I used to be, me right now as I actually am. Because it's been a long time since anyone made me feel like that. She looked at him steadily. Are you going to tell me that's not a real reason? He didn't. Because Jason Morgan, to his infinite credit, never dismissed what was real. No, he said. That's a real reason. He sat down then, finally, on the arm of the couch. I just need you to be careful. Not careful the way you usually are, actually careful. Eyes open, every door, every angle. When am I not? He gave her a look. Okay, she conceded. I hear you. They sat in the kind of silence that only exists between people who have been through the fire together more than once. Not uncomfortable, just weighted with history. Don't stop talking to me about it, he said finally. I won't. Promise me. Jason. She crossed the room and put her hand on his arm, briefly. I promise. 2 miles away, Brennan moved through the darkened corridor of the Port Charles waterfront like a man who had memorized every shadow in the city. He'd gotten part of what he needed on Cullum, fragments, really, just enough to confirm that the threat was escalating faster than anyone upstairs was willing to admit. And Jocelyn Jacks was walking right into the middle of it. He found her at the docks, which surprised him not at all. She was standing at the railing, looking out at the water with the particular expression of someone who had recently decided something irreversible. She heard him coming, she was getting better at that, and turned without flinching. Brennan. You've been busy, he said. So have you. She tilted her head. What is it? He respected that she didn't do small talk anymore. Somewhere in the past year, Jocelyn Jacks had shed the layer of civilian instinct that made most people dangerous to put in the field. What had replaced it wasn't invincibility, it was focus. The circle around you is getting smaller, he said. People who know your name are talking to people who should know it. That's not a coincidence. He watched her face. I need you to pull back. Just for a few weeks. Let me get Cullum contained before.
No.
The word was flat and final. He studied her. You understand what I'm telling you. I understand exactly what you're telling me. She met his gaze. I'm also telling you that pulling back right now, when we're this close, hands everything we've built to people who will bury it. She paused. I know the risk. I've always known it. That's not new information. Brennan said nothing for a long moment. He had worked with agents for most of his adult life, and he recognized the particular variety of stubbornness that couldn't be reasoned with, not because it was irrational, but because it was rooted in something real. Then be careful, he said at last. You sound like everyone else in my life right now. Maybe everyone in your life is right. She turned back to the water. I'll be careful, she said, in a tone that meant the conversation was over. On the other side of Port Charles, in a coffee shop just off the main drag, Maxie Jones was doing the thing she always swore she would stop doing. Talking. She was halfway through explaining something to a friend, something that had felt harmless when she started, before she heard herself and stopped. The sentence hung in the air between them like smoke, and her friend's expression shifted just slightly, just enough for Maxie to understand that the words had already left the room. She smiled and changed the subject and spent the rest of the conversation calculating damage. It wasn't threatening. Sidwell never threatened outright. That wasn't his method. His method was instruction, delivered with the particular certainty of a man who had never once considered the possibility that someone might refuse him. The message outlined what she was expected to do and when, and underneath the professional language was the implication that was always there. We know what we know, and we will use it. She stared at it until the words blurred.